Hello and welcome to the Core Reports special edition. You may remember AstraZeneca for its work during COVID and more specifically the Covishield vaccine, which was rolled out in India after COVID struck in 2020. The interesting takeaway, of course, is how AstraZeneca has built on the learnings from COVID, including into its overall research and development mandate, which includes today, among others, biopharmaceuticals, cardiovascular metabolism, within that, respiratory disease, oncology, and rare disease. Coming back to cancer, India saw some 1.5 million cases in 2023, a figure that's expected to grow even as non-communicable diseases in India rise. The overall effort to diagnose cancer better and earlier is a key thrust area for several organizations in the healthcare space. To understand where AstraZeneca is going in India, both as a multinational pharmaceutical organization as well as a research-focused enterprises, including in areas like oncology, I catch up with Dr. Sanjeev Panchal, Country President and Managing Director for AstraZeneca Pharma India. Sanjeev started at AstraZeneca about 19 years ago and began his career in India in 2003 as a brand associate. Over time, he's progressed through several positions in India, Indonesia, Asia Pacific, and the international region based in Singapore and the United Kingdom. Hello and welcome to the Core Reports Weekend Edition. Sanjeev, thank you so much for joining me. So, my first question, just to kick things off. So, a lot of us are going to doctors, particularly those who are maybe in the northern part of India, including Mumbai, because of some sort of respiratory problem, cough, cold, all of that. I think mostly linked to pollution, but could be other reasons as well. But doctors are therefore aware of this and they know that people are suffering from this. They prescribe medicines which are fairly consistent in keeping with this time, which is seasonal. But for someone who's heading a pharmaceutical company, I'm assuming your outlook is a little different. You're not looking seasonal, you're looking long term. So as you look at your dashboard, particularly in India right now, what is it that you see? And what are the kind of issues that you're facing, confronting, and picking up?
Thank you very much, Govind. Thanks for this opportunity. I think we are a purpose-driven organization, so we always look for how do we deliver life-changing medicine and bring the science to patient as fast as possible. So that has always been our mind, and we're also driven by our values. We're really inspired by our values for saying when we follow science and we put patient first. So as you rightly said, there are different diseases happening in the country. I was in Delhi and Bombay meeting doctors who are treating cancers, who are treating respiratory diseases. But we are very clear that when we are participating in any country, our purpose is clear that how do we reduce the disease burden and how do we address unmet need with the science which we have. I think that has always been our outlook. And when we look back, let's say for this year, and we're looking at, hey, we're looking at how much access we have brought to these medicines into our country and what else we can do into the next year. So overall, that's what the first thing that we look for. The second part, in addition to science, I also look for sustainability. How have we done in terms of our sustainable both access for our medicine, but at the same time for the planet, for the society and the people and planet, which is our, again our purpose. So these two things
Got it.
really, which is science and sustainability, is always at top of our mind. When we look behind and when we even look forward and reducing the burden of disease and addressing the unmet need with a science. That's
Right.
how
Okay.
we look at it.
I'll come to oncology in a bit. So let's talk about respiratory for a moment. And I know that you've also been launching products, including for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and that's part of your portfolio, but you launched something recently. What are you seeing there, including in countries like India right now, which calls for, let's say, greater R&D, more products, more response to patient needs?
So again, absolutely clear. One is that just to give you one quick background about our portfolio of AstraZeneca globally and also in India is focused on oncology, which we will talk about later.
Yeah.
Then we have biopharmaceuticals. And biopharmaceuticals, we have three arms rather. So one is focusing on cardiovascular metabolism. Second is focusing on respiratory disease. And third is focusing on vaccine and immune therapies. And another one is a respiratory disease. So all five therapeutic areas broadly into oncology, biopharmaceutical, and rare disease. So that's where I've been a focus. In respiratory, what we are trying to do is to ensure we bring innovative medicines. We announced a few launches recently. One was specifically for RSV, which is for preterm babies who are preterm and therefore their lungs are not well developed and they can cause infection of respiratory syncytial virus. And we have recently now, so there is no as such treatment for it. This is not a vaccine. This is a monoclonal antibodies for that. The babies who are born who can't say, but they are seeing their lungs are not well developed, and we need to ensure that we bring that science to the small babies who are the future generation for our country. So I think that's very advanced science for that generation. On the other side, we recently announced a launch of soon bringing a launch of a product for COPD, and there we see a huge mortality as a risk, both for smokers as well. And we see a lot of patients getting hospitalized. So we are trying to bring those advanced technology, and we're launching soon. We announced in the stock exchange also that we'll be launching in the month of January. So we are addressing that part of unmet needs. So you can see two ends, and a preterm babies who can get affected very early, and the patients who are actually getting to hospitalization because of exacerbation and at a risk of mortality, and bring a high end signs of global to those type of patients. So that's part of bringing innovation in respiratory. The other thing which you would have seen earlier was that one of our products, format or videos night, we wanted to improve access for our medicines which are already there in the market. So we had this product and we partnered with another company to ensure that there we have already shaped the market. We want to further improve the access for our medication. We are partnering with the companies to ensure the reach of that product becomes even better and we improve the access. So you can clearly focusing on science to our specialists. At the same time, we are also improving access for our medications in the respiratory disease, which I'm specifically talking about here.
Right. And I'm going to ask you about, the mix between manufacturing, distribution, partnerships, and many multinationals, including yourself, have sort of adopted a similar strategy there in recent years, even as you simultaneously step up your R&D in India. But I'll come to that in a second. The biggest recall for AstraZeneca, obviously, in the last few years has been COVID, and you did mention monoclonal antibodies. So tell us about what is life after COVID been like?
So one of the things is that COVID, we all have been impacted in some form or the other, not directly maybe, but overall we really take pride in the way we brought the COVID medication into not for medication but vaccine into the whole world. We are not a vaccine company at that point of time. We're oncology, CVRM, and rare disease company. But we were inspired by a purpose, putting the patient first, followed science, and do partnerships. And we did with Oxford, and we did across the world with the different countries, manufacturing, work with different partners across with the government organization to ensure that vaccine reaches across the part of the world. So we're very proud that we delivered 3 billion doses of vaccines across the world. And at the same time, we had some independent data from Airfinity, which was published in the Imperial College of London Lancet in June, which showed that we actually saved more than 6 million lives between 8 December 2020 to 8 December 2021. So the idea was that this was not possible unless we've collaborated. That clearly showed that if we come together in the place where the health system is tested really hard at that point of time, we really feel proud what we have done. At the same time, if you see the partnership, at some places we directly supplied to the government in India. We real example of science and technology transfer, which happened to Serum Institute of India, to ensure that we bring these doses not only for India, for our country, but also to low and middle income countries. And there you would see that we were very clear that we want to have an equitable access of the vaccine, and we delivered it at no profit. So this gives us a pride as a company. So we are doing something for good at the time where collaboration would have made the biggest difference. We might not be the vaccine company at that point of time, but we still partnered with Oxford to ensure we deliver equitable access of our vaccine at no profit. And we also ensured we use different models of partnership, and SI is one of the models which we did for our factory.
Right. From what you're saying, I can see that partnership itself is one of the residual, let's say, benefits of the whole COVID period. I mean, the ability to work with companies across the spectrum, research organizations, and so on at a much accelerated level, because I'm sure you do otherwise too. What are the other residual, let's say, benefits of the whole COVID period, including in innovation and research and development, that have stayed on within the company and maybe the industry as well?
Yes, I think so. Two part. One is what we learned. Definitely, we learned that partnership is critical, and how do we extend that partnership into all the things which we are doing, whether we are doing oncology. We really believe one of the and as you're saying that what we also learned. Let me say one more, two, three things here. So one is that early prevention is very important. You would have seen that the amount of mortality which happened in COVID were the patients who had comorbidities, right? And those of the patients, this science told us that if you have comorbidities, you are probably uh, immunocompromised for that section. And you would know the immunocompromised patients were the one who were more impacted for COVID. At the same time, there were healthy people as well. So what was important was that can we do early screening and understand if patients have, any diseases which they should help become a major center of that. So one of the things which we are doing is to focus on early screening and diagnosis in lung cancer, for example. And our ambition is to eliminate lung cancer as a cause of death, global ambition till 2030. So what we are doing, bringing that in India, and we are using technology, which is AI, and we are using X-ray, providing AI, partnering with the AI company and with the government to ensure that can we understand early lung cancer and not detect at late stage, can we do it early? So that is one part of our early doing things. Early screening is very, very important to making health system resilient. Second, the second piece we realized is that how do we partner with the government? So when we were doing with the policy changes which are happening across, how do we partner? So we can't achieve everything alone. So we are partnering with Karnataka government, we are partnering with the Goa government to ensure that we bring those early screening in the public system to reduce the disease burden. So partnership became a very important part of our collaboration. And third is, I think the impact on the planet and sustainability was very, very important. So the climate change which is happening and how AstraZeneca is really taking a lead in terms of becoming carbon neutral and net zero. And you would have heard recently that we announced in India that we are planting 60 million trees to reduce, decarbonize. At the same time, the whole supply chain, can we make it more sustainable? Because these things can come in future. So what we have done is, one is that we did COVID vaccine. We have this free learnings which are applying. And recently, last week, we announced a partnership, India partnership for health system sustainability, resilience and sustainability. So that is a PHSSR report, which was done in more than 20 countries. We worked with the London School of Economics and the government to bring that report. We just launched on the last week, and you would hear more about it, to ensure that if we have such future situation, is our system resilient enough, and what changes should be made in future, so we are even more future ready. So a lot of learning for us, and we have really implemented these learning, what we are doing today, but also the reports which we are trying to bring for the future.
Right, and that's illustrative. And COVID, of course, was sudden. It came in early 2020, it devastated the world, and it also started receding in about a year's time. Something like cancer is an ongoing challenge at various levels, and you as a company are obviously working on it again at various levels. So tell us about what are the kind of issues or specific cancer conditions that you're working on right now, and how promising are some of the medicines that you've launched, including right now in recent weeks? And what are the kind of cancer conditions again that they are likely to address or cure?
Yes. So cancer, overall, our cancer pipeline is strong. So we started with lung cancer, especially, let's say, in India. We've launched our first product in lung cancer, and I talk about how we are expanding our learning and the science of cancer, and how we can address the drivers of those disease in both in terms of understanding the science and how do we address that, the drivers of the disease. So one is, we are in lung cancer. We recently launched also a new medicine in breast cancer. We also launched in a new indication for GI cancer, and we also have GI and then GU cancer. So we're looking at different tumor types, and these are the tumor which we are looking at. We have something for hematology cancer as well, but mostly solid tumors is something which we have these therapy areas. Now, what is evolving? The science is so fast evolving that within lung cancer, you have different stages. So you have stage 4 cancer and stage 3 cancer. So what we are doing is, we are first learning the types of cancer, and we are also looking at how do we treat those cancer early. So on one side, we are trying to detect early. We are treating the late stage cancers, for example, lung cancer. And then we have breast cancer, in which there's a expression of HER2 and HER2 low, HR positive, So we're learning different mechanism in terms of in terms of cancer. And to treat that, it's basically precision medicine, Govind. If you would see that the right drug for right patient at the right time. So we have antibody drug conjugates is what you would see. We're looking at how do we bring those new modalities, and which is actually bringing a revolution of ADCs over chemotherapies there. Then now we have antibody drug conjugates, and then tomorrow we will have mechanism which is cell therapies, a radio conjugate. So new platforms are also emerging to treat cancer.
And the kinds of cancer you talked about gastrointestinal, you talked about lungs. Now, what is the prevalence? And you talked about breast, sorry, you started with that. What is the prevalence in India between these, at least in the way you are responding to them with medicines, versus in India as well as versus the rest of the world?
So for example, GI cancer is quite high overall in Asia. If you look at the gastrointestinal cancer, it can have the liver cancer, the biliary tract cancer, so different form of cancers within GI. So it's the prevalence is very high in Asia and also high in India. Lung cancer again high in India. You would see lung cancer both for smokers and even we are seeing in non-smokers. The breast cancer is high. So you will have some cancers are high in prevalence and some cancers are high in mortality as so the prevalence and being the population which is huge in India, as you could see, we want to ensure that we are addressing those unmet need by bringing those both early screening at one stage, and at the same time, can we bring those innovative medicine faster for our country? I think that's what we are trying to do, and therefore you would see the launch we are doing in cancer is much more faster versus previous years.
Right. And you talked about lung cancer amongst non-smokers. Is that a new trend? And what, in your understanding, is causing it?
So it's both. So the science is evolving. So we are
Mhm.
seeing in smokers and non-smokers as well. And as the science is evolving, so what we understand is that we would need to address both. It can't be only one. Right. So that's the evolving science as we go ahead. But cancer is at the end of the day. The cancer. So for example, COPD is very smoking, which you're talking respiratory. And we think that smoking can only impact lung, and we can also see is it in men and women. So we are understanding a science better, the modalities better. But at the end of the day, you are addressing the disease causing
Right.
that and addressing the different types. Right.
So
Yeah.
let me flip the question around. So from your portfolio of drugs, what's the biggest selling cancer drug?
I won't say the exact, but for us,
In percentage, proportion, yeah.
osimertinib, yeah, I think the lung cancer drug is the biggest as of now selling, which
Mm.
has been there in the market for more than 70 years. And I won't take a brand name,
Sure.
but you can see the report. But so lung cancer drug is the biggest drug which is selling for us, and it has been in the market for 6 to 7 years. And some for a breast cancer drug is like hardly 1 year into the market.
So you're saying your top cancer drugs are lung and breast in that order?
Yes, so lung and even lung, you have. So, for example, another drug which we have can also be used for GI and also for lung. So now same drug can also have more
No.
indication, but put together a portfolio of lung is the biggest portfolio.
And the overall AstraZeneca India portfolio, what would be your top three drugs?
So our top three drug will be the lung drug, which
Okay.
is, for example, Tagrisso, which is already in the at stock exchange available. Tagrisso would be the flagship product for us, which is helping to meet unmet need in the cancer. And then we also have a drug in biopharmaceutical, which is a heart attack medication for us. That's number two for us overall in the biopharmaceutical space. And then we have other cancer drugs which are coming up, especially the breast cancer and GI cancer.
Right. Okay. You talked about early screening in a couple of contexts, and including in the context of what we've taken away from COVID. So tell us about early screening in cancer. How does that work, and how could that work?
So the basic premise is that if we can detect cancer early, there are higher chances of uh, both survival, and if it is very early, there are chances of cure. But the challenge today is that it's more than 70% of the patients, at least let's take lung cancer example, are being detected at stage 4, which is too late, right? And the survival rates reduces, the mortality charge reduces. And across the world, what we're trying to do is, can we do a stage shift in terms of how do we detect cancer? If we can do stage shift of 4 to 3, 3 to 2, 2 to 1, and even detect much, much earlier. For example, in India, the amount of X-rays which are done, both for a regular checkup and even for employment, a person would go for X-rays. What we are trying to do is that in both in private setting, but mostly also in the partnership with the government, where you have a health system much more established. We are saying that all the X-rays, for example, if they can be screened by AI technology, which we are partnering with Cure AI, to see if we can detect nodules in that X-ray, and if we detect nodules, we can then go for low dose CT scan and find out if this patient could be, or a person, not still a patient, could be at a risk of cancer, which means we are not detecting probably at stage 4. We are probably detecting at very early in this. So that's what we are trying to drive. Pleased to share, we have been 500,000 scans already in India, and we have detected 1857 nodules up till now. So that's have been the progress which we had made over an year, past year.
And that's interesting. So you're saying you're essentially scanning X-rays which were not taken with the objective of detecting cancer. They were taken for something else.
Yes, detecting for something else, and they will look at 29 modalities in that X-ray. And if we find nodules, because AI technology is very powerful, right? Sometimes you might not see very specifically for that person, but AI can see and say, okay, if this could be probably cancer, then we can go to the next step and take the next step forward. So this is very, very helpful both for, and we are not doing this in India also, we are doing in other parts of the country, and this is very helpful to drive our early screening and diagnosis.
Right. And you said you're working with Cure.ai in India?
Yes.
Okay.
So Cure.ai, AstraZeneca. So we do more awareness. Cure.ai establish the mechanism and so we have in Goa and in Karnataka, all the public hospitals will have that mechanism to detect the lung modalities with this AI.
Right. Okay. So let me come back to the manufacturing the manufacturing process overall and how you're laid out in India today. So you've been increasing your presence on the R&D front and including in global IT, but reducing in manufacturing. Now, this is a trend I know several other multinationals are following. Tell us about what is driving it in your case.
So as I said, one thing is absolutely clear, that we want to bring. We want to pioneer. Our aspiration is to pioneer in science. So how do we bring pioneering science in India as fast as possible? Actually, we are saying we want to lead in specialist disease area as a specialist disease area, because science is so strong and so compelling that we want to bring this faster, but also to specialists and transform patient outcome. So in India, we have been for 45 years. So this year we are celebrating 45 years as a company, which is a great recognition that we have been strengthening our footprint. So from starting a factory in 1979 to up till what we are. In over the 45 years, we have listed 2 entities now. One is a listed entity, which I head, and then you have another entity, which is the Pharma India Limited, and that has already been 10 years. So in listed entity, we have manufacturing, we have our commercial team, for example, and also for SMM, which is doing global clinical trial in India for understanding unmet need of our country. The other side is GBS, which is R&D, and not the labs, but from the backend side, we are doing IT services. We are also now, just from an IT services, we have actually increased our presence to India and also for the globe. So this is what we are doing. So overall, we are strengthening our presence in India. And of course, we have done a strategic review globally for our factory, and we believe that we will continue to strengthen in these spaces, innovative medicine faster, and focus on building the innovation and technology hub as in India, and use the local digital and talent for country. So we have 4,000 plus people.
Yeah.
Overall in the country.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that shift. And so you've said that, when you downscaled Bangalore and you said that you would be importing directly because that's faster. I mean, tell us about the manufacturing process. I mean, is this a sort of global shift that's happening as well, or is it more to do with countries like India, where clearly you're creating more R&D assets versus
So,
manufacturing assets?
so I think it's more about the strategic review, and then we have strategic sites for manufacturing across the world. So and it's more of a specialist product which we are bringing into the country. But I would still again say that India is an important part, and the unwavering support the global is giving. And I would say in three parts. One is, and I'm very clear about three parts which global is supporting and strengthening our footprint. So one is bringing innovative medicine faster, and our pipeline is like uh, almost 20 assets globally coming by 2030, 20 new assets. So we have a huge, responsibility to bring that into India. The second part is the IT component, innovation and technology component, which we are bringing into. And you would see we invested $30 million, which is 250 crores, and adding
Yeah.
1,300 more people there. And the third part is sustainability. So if you see our investment into the planting the trees in India, India was selected was one of the country amongst the five continents and in across the world. And we are planting 60 million trees in 27 hectares of land, helping 20,000 plus farmers to ensure that we are focusing on the planet. So overall, our narrative about people, society, and planet and strengthening footprint in India at an overall scale from global is very, very strong in that sense.
Right. And, you mentioned earlier about improving access to medicine and that being one thrust area for you here, and therefore the partnerships, which again is something that I've seen with other companies as well. So tell us about how that is working out. I mean, why does a country like India need so many partnerships? I mean, what is unique in a way, if there is, about India that the entire sort of distribution part has to be structured, or marketing part as well has to be structured a little differently from elsewhere?
Yes, so overall, see for let me give you example. Both for multinationals, specifically for India, for AstraZeneca in India, our pipeline is very strong, and pipeline is not only for very very specific. So we have oncology pipeline which is strong, we have biopharmaceutical pipeline which is strong, and we have rare disease pipeline we are strong. So for each of these level, you would say a partnership is important. So why? Because so for example, early screening, because we want to reduce the disease burden and help patient get detected early. You partner with the government or local partners like the AI, for example, to ensure we do early screening. On rare disease, for example, we work with an ORDI, which is the rare disease, and we have patient advocacy. Then we have to work with the government that more diseases are listed into the national policy on rare disease. So that's a different level of partnership. When you're talking of biopharmaceuticals, so for example, are one of our drugs which have been into the market, we believe that we want to increase the reach of that product. And while we focus on bringing innovative medicine into the country as one part, we also need to ensure how do we access of those medication. So two things which we are doing at the same time. So while we are really focusing on innovative medicine, we need clinical trials for that. We need regulatory submission for it, right? We need to shape the market, shape the science, and we are extremely focused on bringing that back. At the same time, we also want to ensure the drugs which can now go to a higher reach. We partner with Indian companies, for example. We are done with in another case, which is helping us to reach more number of patients. So we are doing this in parallel, focusing innovative medicine. But wherever we believe we want to improve reach, we do that. We are doing early screening partnership, with let's say academia, with public-private partnerships. Let's put together PPP, which we are doing. At the same time, we are also doing to ensure that we bring more disease into the listing for rare disease. That's how been our approach: innovative medicine and improve access of our medication.
Right. And as you look ahead, are there any marquee projects that you are working on or tracking more closely in India in the next, let's say, 6 months to a year that you can talk about?
Yes. So one is I would say the early screening part will be very big for us. The other part is that where we are seeing a higher disease burden, for example, of course, in lung cancer for that matter, but also a rare disease is something which we are working. We are bringing rare disease. We have just launched one medication. We also have a pipeline for it. I think rare disease uh, is something which we need to work very hard. So there are 7,000 rare disease, and we don't have a treatment for all. So that's something which we want to work on. The other part which I spoke about was the the PHSSR, which is about partnership or health system sustainability and resilience, which we are working on. So these are focused outside of bringing innovative medicines. So on one side, the team works on bringing innovative medicine, but at the same time, we are working on how do we partner to ensure that we improve access of early screening or access to disease listing into the national policy so that more patients can get a benefit out of it. So these are projects which we are broadly working on apart from bringing innovative. That takes a lot of time to bring innovative medicine, and the whole cross-functional team, works together there.
Right. And we're running out of time. So let me ask you one or two quick questions. You touched upon AI in a few places, and of course, the work that you're doing with Cure.ai, and that's interesting. So are there any other problems that you're trying to solve using AI or this kind of AI, which is, you talked about scanning X-rays, but is there anything else on the horizon there?
So, so AI, for sure, AI is the future, and both we want to ensure that AI is part of our sustainability strategy, but also as the way we do the business, both responsibly, AI is very, very important. So I think as a part of our strategy, data, digital, AI is important. So you would see a big component of that in our GCC, which is Global Business Services. That's where is a huge investment. But globally, we have Abinova. In 2023, we launched Abinova, and which is the health tech business aimed at accelerating the science innovation. We're also doing the Unify, which is a clinical trial platform to work the 70% of our data. It allows 70% of our data to be collected at home versus people going to the trial site. So we are using that technology both in India, which is a very so India, Bangalore, and Chennai are now our nerve centers for the group. Right? Uh, the amount of technology investment which we are doing. And globally, we are looking at different ways of doing better clinical trials, and also how do we improve the health outcomes, predicting success early with the clinical trials. So clinical trial is one, technology is one, innovation is one, which we are trying to do. And Kira, I gave you an example. How do we do early screening and diagnosis?
Right. Sanjeev, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, but let me not go away without one last question. Uh, you know, uh, how does a CEO of a pharma company stay healthy?
So I've always made a point that I walk every day, 10,000 steps at least. So whatever time, I need to ensure that the walking is very important. Prioritization is very important. So health should be prioritized. I really believe that healthy eating is not always easy to do that because you travel a lot, but walking and healthy eating and prioritizing health is very important. I really believe in that personally, and also ensure that every of our employees and our families, who are working with uh, for them together ensure that we remain healthy. For me, walking is every day 10,000 steps is a minimum standard to ensure that I remain healthy, have good sleep, find time to sleep well, which is very, very important because that regenerates you a lot, and prioritize the whole day to ensure that you are focusing on work, family, and also health together. So that's how it has been my personal. This is not AstraZeneca opinion. This is my personal opinion. That's
Yeah,
how
yeah.
I take care of myself so that we can contribute. The healthier we are, the better we can do for the patients, for the company, and for our country. So health becomes a minimum standard to deliver overall uh, for what we want to do for the country and the company and the employees.
Sanjeev, that's a wonderful note to end on. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you very much.